disasters to dominance, these are NFL records that will never be broken. Let's start things off with the 1986 Eagles, who set a record by getting sacked 104 times in a single season. They had two completely different quarterbacks, and neither one could dodge a defender for the life of them. Ron Jaworski and Randall Cunningham were both victims of the sack attack. Jaworski led the league in sacks 3 times before, and Cunningham did it 5 times in his career. Those poor Eagles couldn't catch a break. They broke the old record of 69 sacks allowed, and Cunningham alone got whacked 72 times. Ouch! No team's gonna beat that sack party anytime soon. Well, unless a team has to play against Derek Thomas every week of the season, cause he was a beast. Derek Thomas recorded 6 sacks in a game all by himself in his rookie season. Poor Dave Krieg, the opposing quarterback, must have had nightmares about Thomas chasing him. But Krieg got the last laugh. On the last play of the game, he evaded Thomas and threw a Hail Mary for a game-winning touchdown. With players like Thomas relentlessly pursuing quarterbacks, it makes you wonder how the hell Brett Favre set this next unbreakable record. From 1992 to 2010, Favre never missed a game that's like a gazillion years in football time. Favre said, "Hold my ice pack," while playing through injuries like a warrior. The dude was made of steel. He just kept going and going. You need a quarterback with a bionic arm and legs made of steel to come close to that legendary record. No way anyone's beating that Iron Man, not even with a rocket-propelled wheelchair. Though Brett Favre's durability gave him plenty of accolades, it also gave him this next record that he probably isn't particularly proud of. Brett Favre's unbreakable NFL record of 336 interceptions won't be touched. During his long and wild career from 1991 to 2010, he played for 4 teams and wasn't afraid to throw some picks. But hey, times have changed. Nowadays, quarterbacks opt for shorter passes instead of just blindly launching the ball like a rocket downfield. For someone to play as reckless as Favre for long enough to break his record is extremely unlikely in today's NFL. Favre sure threw a lot of picks, but he never had a game as bad as this next guy. Jim Hardy's record of 8 interceptions thrown in a single game is safe and sound, and here's why. Back in 1950, offenses weren't that complex. They were all about running the ball, and when they passed it, they were basically just launching it downfield into coverage. The Cardinals were in a massive 31-0 hole by halftime, so poor Hardy had to throw like his life depended on it. Surprisingly, only one of those interceptions went for a pick 6, and that was the last touchdown the Eagles scored in their 45-7 victory. Hardy threw 24 interceptions in 12 games in 1950. That led the entire league. But George Blanda absolutely shattered that mark with an unbreakable record of his own. In 1962, George Blanda had the season from hell, throwing 42 interceptions, more than anyone else in history. He was just tossing them up like hotcakes on Sunday morning. Blanda completed only 42.1% of his passes and had an atrocious passer rating at 51.3. But the Houston Oilers somehow pulled off 11 wins out of 14 games in spite of Blanda's historically bad performances. Blanda's 1962 season was a disaster. And if you want to avoid a disaster, then you should like this video and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, we'll stampede over you like Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith was a beast, and his record 4,409 rushing attempts will never be touched by today's running backs. Times change, and now teams don't lean on one running back like they used to. Back in the 1990s, the game plan was just to hand it off to Emmitt Smith as many times as possible until his brain was as mashed as potatoes. Nowadays, it's all about throwing that pigskin around, leaving Smith's record safe and sound. Smith sure handled a heavy workload, but he never quite had a season like this next player. James Wilder's unbreakable NFL record of 492 touches in a season, set in 1984 while playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is outrageous. In fact, I'm surprised he's still alive to tell people about it. Wilder endured a pounding like no other, even for a 6'10 team. His 492 touches outshine the next player by 35, and with teams favoring running back committees these days, nobody's getting close to this record anytime soon. Well, unless Joe Gibbs gets another coaching job in the NFL, cause he loved to pound the rock. Jamie Morris set an all-time record by rushing the ball more than any other player in history in a single game. And that record sure as hell ain't getting broken. The Redskins had already missed the playoffs in 1988, so Coach Joe Gibbs thought, hey, let's give this rookie Jamie Morris a shot. And boy, did he give him a shot. Morris got fed the ball like Thanksgiving turkey 45 times against the Bengals. Now you'd expect that Morris was a big old bruiser like Jerome Bettis, but nope. Morris was just a little fella, 5 feet 7 inches, 190 pounds. Yet he ran like the wind, gaining 152 yards, and the best part, not a single fumble. These records are impressive, but I don't know if anyone's record is quite as impressive as this next player's. Jerry Rice holds the all-time record for receiving yards with an incredible 22,895 yards. The guy was unstoppable on the gridiron. His record is considered unbreakable due to the huge gap between Rice and other players, even the great ones. What makes this even more impressive is that Rice continued to excel even after turning 30, accumulating nearly 14,000 yards during that period alone, which would have been enough to make him a Hall of Famer even if he never played in his 20s. Everyone knows Jerry Rice thanks to his Hall of Fame NFL career. But not as many people have heard of Glenn Milburn, even though he played a game like no other in history. Glenn Milburn had the game of his life when he recorded a record-breaking 404 all-purpose yards in 1995 while playing for the Denver Broncos. In that game, he showcased his talent by accumulating 133 kick return yards, 131 rushing yards, 95 punt return yards, and 45 receiving yards. Today's NFL has shifted towards specialized players, making it rare to find someone handling multiple roles like Milburn did. Speaking of rare, we just need to mention the Chicago Bears' bizarre 1932 season. During the 1932 NFL season, the Chicago Bears achieved an unbreakable record of 6 consecutive ties on the road. Before 1974, tie games were common since there were no overtime periods. The Bears' remarkable feat included 3 straight scoreless ties at the start of the season, leaving fans without witnessing a single point scored in any game by week 4. Could you imagine how pissed off those fans were? Since the implementation of sudden death overtime in 1974, there have been only 24 tie games in the NFL, with no team matching the Bears' 6 scoreless ties in a single season. Not only did the Bears season consist of 6 ties, but they also recorded 8 shutouts. And guess what? They ended up winning the NFL championship that season too. Boy, have times changed. Nowadays, offense rules the league, which makes this next record very impressive. In the 2000 NFL season, the Baltimore Ravens had the greatest defense of all time, and they set an unbreakable record by allowing only 165 points throughout the entire 16-game season. This remarkable feat is even more impressive when considering that in 1982, teams played just 9 games due to a strike, and half of the teams still allowed more points than the Ravens did in a 16-game season. The Ravens' defense was exceptionally dominant, compensating for their struggling offense, which went 5 games without scoring a single touchdown. Despite having a mediocre offense, the Ravens' outstanding defense led the Ravens to a Super Bowl victory, solidifying their record as an enduring achievement. That Ravens team was stacked with players like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. But none of those guys accomplished what Paul Krause did in his record-breaking career. Paul Krause caught 81 interceptions in his career. That total is a record that will never be touched. Krause was a dual-sport athlete, playing baseball and football in college. Then he brought his center field skills to the gridiron and became a real ball hawk. Krause was a pick machine, grabbing at least 6 interceptions in 8 seasons, though he only led the league in picks once. As mentioned, he played in the wild gunslinging QB era. Protecting the ball? Nah, not as important as today's game. So, unless quarterbacks start throwing like George Blanda, Krause's record is staying put. And another record that's staying put was set by the Buffalo Bills over the span of 4 seasons. The Buffalo Bills hold an NFL record that might be the most depressing in sports. The Bills made it to and then lost in 4 consecutive Super Bowls. Despite reaching 4 championships, the Bills faced heartbreaking defeats with an average margin of 16.5 points, including a wide right 1-point loss in Super Bowl 25. Those AFC championship banners and trophies serve as bittersweet reminders of their dominance, while the football gods seemingly frowned upon their early 90s aspirations. You know how many Super Bowls the Bills have won since? 0. But would you believe us if we told you that a team had a game where they totaled less than 0 yards? You won't believe it, but the 1979 Seahawks set an epic record that'll never be broken. They racked up -7 yards in a game. They must have been playing in quicksand or something, because I can't even imagine what that would look like. They got 23 yards rushing and 25 yards passing, completing just 2 out of 17 attempts. Yikes! But that's not even the worst of it. They also lost 55 yards on sacks, digging themselves deeper into the yardage hole. With just 1 first down the whole game, the Rams had a picnic, winning 24-0. You'd expect a ton of turnovers, but nah, they only gave 1 away. It was like the Seahawks never even showed up. The Seahawks got their asses kicked pretty badly, but this next team proved that you can still win a game without any offense. In the Houston Texans' first season in 2002, expectations weren't particularly high. But in Week 14, the Texans shocked everyone. The team gained a grand total of 47 yards. David Carr threw for 33 measly yards, and their leading rusher added a whopping 19 yards. But guess what? They crushed the Steelers 24-6. How, you ask? Well, the Texans got 3 return touchdowns and Steelers gifted them 5 turnovers. It's a magical win, and the previous record was set way back in 1961. In this day and age, I can't imagine a team gaining less than 47 yards of total offense and winning a game. But who knows, right? Well, one thing we definitely know is that no one is ever going to touch this next record. Stephen Gostkowski's unbreakable NFL record of 479 consecutive extra points made won't be beaten. Remember when those point-after attempts were a piece of cake from the 2-yard line? Well, they moved it back to the 15-yard line, and suddenly it's like trying to kick field goals with flaming footballs. Gostkowski was like a kicking machine, missing just 1 extra point as a rookie, then going on a 142-game hot streak without a miss. They might as well put that record in a safe, cause it's staying put forever. Gostkowski was incredible, but he also needs to give credit to his blockers who gave him the protection he needed to set his unbreakable record. And I doubt the Steelers had those blockers in 1988. In 1988, the Steelers had a rough season. Their special teams were a hot mess, allowing 6 blocked punts, more than any other team in history. Harry Newsome, the punter, just couldn't seem to get things right. Nowadays, those special teams units are a little more competent than they were back in the 80s. Last but not least, we have to mention a record that stunned the football world. Being a punt returner is a young man's game. Tim Brown said, "Hold my Gatorade, I got this, guys." At 35 years and 140 days old, the Raiders called on him for return duties in 2001. And guess what? He scored an 88-yard punt return touchdown that left everyone in awe. It had been 8 years since his last return touchdown, but he showed him he still had the magic. Attaboy, Tim Brown. Unless Devin Hester comes out of retirement with a motor installed in his butt, Brown's record ain't getting touched. There you have it. Those were NFL records that will never be broken. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, check out the other videos currently on your screen if you want to keep watching our NFL content.